Why China wants Russia's defeat in the Ukraine war. The Ukraine war, which started in early 2022, has changed the political and power scene not just in Eastern Europe, but all over the world. This conflict, caused by Russia's forceful actions against Ukraine, has grabbed the attention of many countries. As a result, Russia faced a lot of criticism and economic sanctions. The effects of this war are not limited to the area where it's happening. They are influencing politics, economics, and safety all around the world. At the heart of this big worldwide issue is the interesting relationship between China and Russia. People often see these two countries as close friends, mainly because they both don't agree with how Western countries control things. But when we look closely, especially how things are during the Ukraine war, their relationship is actually quite complicated, raising questions about China's true intentions and strategic interests in the outcome of the Ukraine war. And today, we'll talk about just that. Sino-Russian relations. The relationship between China and Russia, two of the world's most influential nations, has been shaped by a complicated and often turbulent history. This history is marked by a mix of conflicts and cooperation, shaping their interactions today. In the past, China and Russia have had serious disagreements, especially over their borders. An example of this is the conflict over Manchuria. This large area, rich in resources, was originally under Chinese control. However, during the 19th century, when China was weak, Russia took control of this region through treaties that China now considers unfair. This history has left a lingering sense of resentment in China. The relationship between the two countries was not always about disagreements. During the early years of the Cold War, China and Russia, then the Soviet Union, shared a kind of friendship, united by their common communist ideology. But this relationship soured in the second half of the 20th century, leading to distrust and even border clashes like those in 1969. After the Soviet Union collapsed in the early 1990s, the dynamic changed significantly. Russia, losing its superpower status, began to build a closer relationship with China. This new era saw them engaging in joint military exercises and sharing sensitive technology. They even discussed ambitious projects like building a joint moon base. Their economic ties strengthened. Despite these developments, the historical tensions, especially regarding territorial disputes, have not completely disappeared. On occasions, these old wounds have been reopened. Like when China, in 2023, started referring to Russian cities in Outer Manchuria by their historical Chinese names. This move, seen as a reminder of their contentious past, suggests that while the two countries currently maintain a strategic partnership, it is not a bed of roses. China's calculated strategy in the Ukraine war. China's approach in the Ukraine war is a careful and calculated one. While China is seen as an ally of Russia, it has chosen a path that avoids providing direct military help. China wants to maintain a delicate balance, supporting Russia, but not to the extent that it would attract international criticism or sanctions that could harm its own economy. Instead of military assistance, China's support for Russia has been mainly economic. One of the most significant forms of this support is through the purchase of Russian energy. These purchases have been crucial for Russia, especially after facing heavy sanctions from much of the Western world. By buying Russian oil and gas, China has provided a lifeline to the Russian economy. This action also serves China's interests, ensuring a steady supply of energy, which is important for its growing economy. Another key aspect of China's strategy is the use of its currency, the yuan, in its transactions with Russia. Traditionally, global trade, especially in oil and gas, is conducted in US dollars. However, by insisting on using the yuan for buying Russian energy, China is not only supporting Russia, but also promoting its own currency on the world stage. This move aligns with China's long-term goal to challenge the dominance of the US dollar. Geostrategic implications of a weakened Russia. If Russia comes out of the Ukraine conflict weakened, it could create opportunities for China, especially in terms of geostrategic advantages. It might get Outer Manchuria back. This region is important for several reasons. Firstly, it has many natural resources like oil and gas, which are valuable to China's energy-hungry economy. Secondly, gaining control or influence in this region could give China direct access to the Sea of Japan, providing an alternative route for its shipping, which currently relies heavily on routes controlled by potentially unfriendly nations. The Russian Far East is another area of strategic interest. This vast region is sparsely populated but holds vast natural resources that are largely untapped. For China, which is always looking to secure more resources, the area is very attractive. A weakened Russia might find it harder to maintain its grip on these far-flung regions. This could open the door for China to increase its influence either through economic means, such as investment and development projects, or even through more direct political or military involvement. Economic and military dependencies. Economically, Russia has faced heavy sanctions from many Western countries due to its actions in Ukraine. These sanctions have put a strain on its economy, particularly in sectors like energy, which is a major part of Russia's revenue. As Western markets close their doors to Russian oil and gas, China has emerged as a key economic partner, buying these resources in large quantities. This reliance on Chinese purchases makes Russia increasingly dependent on China's market and economic policies. The Ukraine war has shown some weaknesses in Russia's military. Because of this, Russia might start depending more on China for military parts and technology. China has been careful about not giving direct military help to avoid problems with other countries. However, it has given Russia different kinds of equipment and technology. This help is not a lot, but it shows that Russia is starting to depend more on China for military needs. China has also put a lot of money into the Russian Far East, more than what Russia itself has spent there. They have funded many projects from construction to energy and farming. This means China is becoming more important in this area. As Russia relies more on China for money and military support, the power between them is changing. China might start having more control over Russia. China's influence in Central Asia has also been growing steadily, and a weakened Russia could further accelerate this trend. Central Asia is strategically important for China, especially for its Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, which aims to create a network of trade routes and increase China's global influence. The countries in Central Asia are crucial for this plan as they are at the crossroads between East Asia and Europe. China has been investing heavily in these countries, building infrastructure and increasing economic ties. These investments make the Central Asian countries more reliant on China, which could reduce Russia's traditional influence in the region. If Russia's power continues to weaken due to its struggles in Ukraine, China may find it easier to expand its presence and control in Central Asia. In the Arctic, China has ambitious goals as well. It has labeled itself a near-Arctic state, and is keenly interested in the region's vast natural resources and potential new shipping routes due to melting ice. The Arctic is also seen as a new frontier for global power dynamics, with untapped oil, gas, and mineral reserves. Control over the Russian Far East is the key to China's Arctic ambitions. This region is a gateway to the Arctic and is rich in resources. If China can increase its influence there, it could gain more access to the Arctic's resources and shipping lanes. Future scenarios and global implications. Looking ahead, several potential developments could unfold from the current geopolitical situation, especially considering China's growing dominance over Russia. This shift could significantly impact the global order, influencing the strategies of major powers like the United States and Europe. One scenario is the continued increase of China's influence over Russia. As Russia potentially becomes more reliant on China economically and militarily, it might lose some of its independence in making global decisions. This could lead to China having a stronger voice in areas traditionally influenced by Russia, such as Central Asia and the Arctic. For the United States and Europe, this shift could present new challenges. A more China-centric Russia might alter the dynamics of global diplomacy, trade, and security. The US and European nations might find themselves needing to recalibrate their foreign policies to address this new balance of power. This could involve strengthening alliances in Asia and Europe and developing new strategies to engage with or counteract the growing China-Russia axis. China's increasing involvement in strategically important regions like the Arctic and Central Asia could prompt the US and Europe to invest more in these areas, both diplomatically and economically. They might also need to form new partnerships with countries in these regions to maintain stability and counterbalance Russia's influence. The Ukraine war and the changing relationship between China and Russia are having a wide impact on the Asia-Pacific region too. Countries like Japan, South Korea, and those in the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, are watching these events unfold very closely. They understand that the outcomes of this war and the evolving dynamics between these two powerful neighbors could greatly affect their own security and foreign policy strategies. The Asia-Pacific region is vital for global trade. The tensions and realignments happening in Europe could lead to changes in trade routes and economic partnerships. This region, known for its significant role in international trade, might experience shifts in how goods are transported and how countries interact economically. The Ukraine war, coupled with the nuanced China-Russia relationship, could lead to a new era of international relations, where old alliances are tested and new ones may form. This is a time of adaptation and possibly significant change in global politics and economics, where the decisions made now will shape the world order for years to come. So, what do you think? Do you believe that the war in Ukraine will leave Russia exposed to China's strategic ambitions? Is it possible that China might eventually treat Russia, currently seen as a strategic ally, more like a subordinate state? Or could it even go as far to claim Russian territory for itself? Let us know in the comments.